Amazing turnaround, new cleaning lady reveals hidden talent of Millionaire'S 6-year-old twins. Sarah stood silently in the grand hallway of the Ellis mansion, her heart racing as she dusted the frames that encased seemingly perfect family memories. She had always admired the immaculate life of the Ellis family, a world so pristine, so far removed from her own. Each swipe of her rag felt like a painful reminder of the gap between her and them. But that day would be different. The sound of hushed voices drifted from the next room. Curiosity pushed her to lean closer. "Why won't they just accept my plan?" Thomas Ellis's voice was gravelly, an edge of frustration behind his polished exterior. "They don't need to waste time on those silly artistic pursuits." The mention of his twins caught Sarah's breath. Her own children, Lily and Max, were bursting with creativity, painting vibrant worlds and wafting through melodies that spiraled from their imaginations. Yet here was a man willing to dismiss those very dreams. A knot formed in Sarah's gut as she wrestled with a sudden onslaught of emotions: fear, anger, and a fierce protectiveness over Lily and Max. Did Thomas truly believe that squashing their artistic spirits would guide them to success? Panic set in as she pondered if they were destined to follow paths that would stifle their exuberance. That night at a cluttered dinner table, she dished up mac and cheese with a side of determination. "Lily, Max," she said, heart pounding, "let us make art. Whatever you dream, let it out. I'll do my best to support you." The way they lit up in response made her chest swell with pride yet tighten with fear. Could she provide enough for their passion? Over weekends, the small house brimmed with color and laughter, creative chaos erupting while Max strummed on a well-loved ukulele and Lily sloshed paint across canvases with wild abandon. But while joy bloomed in their simple world, Sarah's worry lingered. She felt caught adrift between two realities, a tug-of-war of desires as her children thrived and another voice, a whisper of doubt, questioned the consequences of wanting more than their humble station. As the examples of their work gathered dust, Sarah steeled her nerves, typing up her application for the local art exhibit. A heart fluttered in her chest. What if the harsh judgment of the elite reflected the uncertainty she felt in her own heart? What if they could rise beyond being the cleaning lady's twins? Before she could backtrack, she hit send. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue, with the exhibit upon them. Anticipation buzzed through the community. Suddenly, Thomas stormed into the picture, vehemently opposing any path that veered from his structured vision for success. His old-world ideals made Sarah's heart sink as she envisioned her children, standing tall against the gusts of societal expectation, yet her insides twisted at the thought of them facing ridicule. What if their success attracted cruel eyes? What if their very happiness unraveled at the seams? The wave of shame pressed down harder as Sarah weighed her next step, her gut telling her to defend her kids' right to express, even as Thomas's voice echoed in her mind, "You're not here for artistry, you're here for achievements." With mounting anguish, she realized she had to make a choice: safeguard their fragile dreams or expose them to a world that may judge them harshly. Each moment passed like shifting sand beneath her feet, her threshold stretching thinner. But when she accidentally overheard another devastating conversation in the mansion, about decisions that could alter everything, Sarah felt the ground beneath her shake. How could she fight against a world of wealth and favor without losing the very essence of the beautiful talents in her children? The emotional storm brewed silently, and she realized, with a gut-wrenching jolt, she was on the precipice of a battle for their souls. In the days leading up to the art exhibit, the air in Sarah's home buzzed with excitement, yet shadows lingered at the edges. As the twins feverishly prepared their pieces, she swam in uncertainty. The contrast of their vibrant creations against the dull backdrop of her own fears haunted her. They painted with fervor, while she felt trapped in a frame of societal norms, her creative aspirations suffocated by practicality. every brushstroke from Lily and every chord strummed by Max echoed their exuberance, but it mirrored an internal struggle for Sarah. She revisited the conversations with Thomas in her mind, each syllable a dagger aimed at the very foundation of her resolve. Success isn't measured in paint or music, he had said, dismissing what she now held sacred. That dismissal burrowed under her skin, igniting a defensive fire. Driven by a mix of desperation and determination, Sarah took to the nearby library. Surrounded by stacks of art books filled with stories of artists who had triumphed against the tide of skepticism, she meticulously crafted her own narrative. What did success mean to her? Was it the stifling security of a mundane life, or was it the exuberance and joy radiating from her children as they liberated their spirits through creativity? The more she explored, the more her conviction crystallized. She needed to fight not just for her children, but for herself. That in the dead of night, when Lily and Max were snug in bed, she pulled out her laptop. With a resolute heart, she began writing her personal artist statement for the exhibit. The words flowed like paint from a brush, capturing her journey as a mother, a cleaner, an artist buried beneath layers of doubt. Each sentence peeled away the layers of fear, revealing her true essence, and the power of authenticity that had long been stifled. The day before the exhibit arrived with a heavy tension. Sarah sat at the kitchen table, watching the twins make last-minute adjustments to their artwork, a vibrant canvas glaring back at her. She felt a twinge of guilt for her own anxiety, realizing her doubts could easily cast a shadow. It was a pivotal moment. Gazing at her children, she recognized an unwavering strength in their innocent faith, a faith in themselves, in their creativity, and in an unbound future. That evening, Sarah made an impulsive decision. She called the Ellis mansion, requesting a private meeting with Thomas. It was time to confront him directly, to articulate a mother's plea for her children to pursue their dreams without the weight of judgment. The very thought sent her heart racing, but she couldn't stand idly by any longer. It was a battle worth fighting. When she arrived at the ornate front door of the mansion, it loomed over her like a sentinel. She braved the crisp air with a mixture of dread and resolve. After exchanging cautious pleasantries, she plunged into the depths of her feelings. "Thomas," she began, her voice slightly trembling but resolute, "I know you want what's best for your children, but I need you to understand the importance of allowing creativity to flourish." But as his expression hardened, something shifted in the air. His steely gaze reminded her of a fortress, unyielding against the notion of a different path. "Sarah, the world isn't a whimsical place," he replied curtly. "They must prepare for success through discipline, not fantasy." The conflict was palpable. She could almost feel their dreams being suffocated under the weight of his expectations. It was a direct confrontation, a momentary flashpoint where Sarah mustered her courage and pushed back against the tide of Thomas's ideology. Maybe success could mean something entirely different, she declared, heart racing as her words hung in the air like the moment before a storm. Maybe it could mean happiness. As silence enveloped them, Sarah realized this was only the beginning of a deeper struggle. What if this confrontation could ignite a change? What if she could inspire others to challenge their beliefs? Peering deeper into Thomas's guarded demeanor, a flicker of uncertainty crossed his face. But before she could process what that could mean for her journey, an unexpected voice echoed down the hall, sending a chill down her spine. It was Thomas's wife. Sarah had met her only briefly, but her presence felt heavy as she entered the room, her expression unreadable. The air tensed again. What revelations might this woman bring, and how would it affect Sarah? The path forward seemed uncertain, and doubt tangled at every turn. This confrontation had ignited something profound within her, but there was so much left to unravel. As Sarah stood her ground, a new realization dawned: her fight was only just beginning. Sarah's heart raced as Mrs. Ellis entered the room, her poised and elegant demeanor contrasting starkly with the tension that permeated the air. The woman's eyes flicked between her husband and Sarah, as though gauging the battlefield. "What is going on here?" she inquired, her voice clear yet layered with concern and curiosity. In that moment, Sarah felt a pulse of opportunity, a direct pivot toward something vitally important. As she opened her mouth to reply, words caught in her throat. The weight of her conversation with Thomas wrapped around her like a vice. Instead of retreating, Sarah chose to lean forward, arms slightly crossed, as if to shield herself yet stand firm. I was just discussing the importance of allowing creativity to flourish in children, she finally articulated, choosing her words with care. Thomas instantly shot her a look filled with a mixture of disbelief and irritation. But Mrs. Ellis raised an eyebrow, intrigued. It's frustrating, Sarah continued, igniting a passion that warmed her resolve. There's a world beyond routine and discipline. I want your children to know that success is also about self-expression and joy. She felt adrenaline coursing through her veins. It was riskier than she had anticipated, but she embraced it. Mrs. Ellis studied her for a moment long enough that Sarah began to waver. That's admirable, she finally said, but the world is filled with challenges. If we don't prepare them, who will? Maybe preparing them isn't about building walls, Sarah countered, her voice slightly stronger, emboldened by the small spark of interest in Mrs. Ellis's eye. Perhaps it's about giving them the tools to navigate with creativity and confidence. To write their own stories. Thomas's expression darkened, but Sarah sensed a shift in the room. Mrs. Ellis straightened, assessing her husband as much as Sarah. What do you think, Thomas? She asked, her tone a mixture of disbelief and challenge. What if we have underestimated the value of creativity in our children's lives? Sarah felt an unexpected alliance begin to form. Could this be the moment she needed to press further without retreating into the shadows of insecurity? Motivated by this small opening, she took a breath. It's not about fantasy or whimsy, Mr. Ellis. It's about passion and discovery. Max and Lily could really shine in an environment that nurtures their gifts rather than confines them to expectations. The air felt electric, brimming with potential. Sarah realized not only was she standing up for her ideals, but she was challenging the framework Thomas had built around the lives of his children. His beliefs had become shackles that she was now actively working to break, but just as the dialogue began to shift, a flicker of unease crossed Mrs. Ellis's face. And what if that exploration doesn't lead to success? She questioned, her tone thoughtful rather than hostile. What if? Sarah immediately saw the obstacle as a chance to drive deeper into the conversation. What if it leads to happiness? Isn't that what really matters? She pressed. In that moment, fear ebbed away. She was no longer merely reacting to Thomas's aggression, she was proposing an alternative. It was liberating. Yet, uncertainty still loomed. As soon as Sarah felt confident, uncertainty seduced her thoughts. What if they dismissed her? What if she pushed too far? Mrs. Ellis remained silent, a contemplative look painting her features. With each passing second, the silence felt heavier. Just then, Lily and Max's laughter rang from down the hall. The moment was a stark reminder of what was at stake, two young souls, bursting with creativity and potential. The chilling uncertainty pressed against Sarah's chest, a companion she had pursued for far too long. Perhaps Mrs. Ellis murmured softly, her gaze flickering between Sarah and Thomas, we should explore this creative avenue together. But before Sarah could voice her hope, Thomas interjected sharply, creativity is frivolous. They need discipline and structure. What you fail to understand. The tension surged anew. Sarah could feel the conflicting energies swirling around her, infusing a sense of urgency into her decision-making. A door creaked open somewhere in the house. Her instincts pulsed, teasing with the possibility of urgency in defined confrontation. Sarah, think about it, Mrs. Ellis said, glancing toward where the laughter had emerged. What do you think would happen if they had the freedom to create without judgment? The question was heavy, a potential turning point and a daunting challenge. A new idea flashed in Sarah's mind, the exhibit could spell a transformative beginning. What if she could harness this moment, not just for her children but for the Ellis family? Let's talk more, Sarah said, her voice steadying with newfound confidence. The implications of that single moment loomed, but the potential for breakthrough and conflict was palpable. As thoughts raced, Sarah sensed the path unfurling uncertainly ahead. Would this sudden alliance steer her toward her goals, or plunge her deeper into a quagmire of doubt? The stakes had risen, and the next steps would demand every ounce of her courage. Are you ready to take that leap? She thought. What answer could solidify her new footing and reveal the true power of creativity in the looming battle against tradition? The room was thick with palpable tension, the air almost vibrated with the unsaid words hanging between them. Sarah's heart hammered in her chest as she stirred herself, the potential for change crackling like electricity in the back of her mind. She had initiated this conversation, now she had to navigate it with grace and determination. Perhaps, she started, considering each word carefully as she turned to face the Elises fully, a collaborative approach could benefit us all. We can show Max and Lily that discipline and creativity aren't mutually exclusive. Thomas scoffed, but Sarah pressed on. Imagine if their education incorporated both structure and free expression. They could be problem solvers, innovators. Instead of just meeting academic standards, they could learn to dare beyond them. Mrs. Ellis regarded her quietly, the flicker of doubt still played upon her features. Sarah sensed it was now or never. The hesitation surfacing from the depths of that uncertainty fed her resolve. You mentioned the world is full of challenges, she said, nodding toward Mrs. Ellis. What if we prepared them not just to face those challenges, but to reshape them? Reshape? Thomas spat incredulously. You think they will become some sort of artsy revolutionaries? No, Sarah said quickly, holding her ground. Not revolutionaries, but confident, capable individuals who can innovate solutions. When children explore their creativity, they learn to pivot, to respond to obstacles with imagination rather than fear. It builds resilience. The skepticism in Thomas's eyes burned hot, yet Sarah refused to flinch. It occurred to her that this moment was about more than just defending a pedagogical philosophy, it was about claiming her place in the world she longed to influence. Lily and Max's laughter floated through the air again, mingling with the tension in the room, a bittersweet reminder of Sarah's goals. She had envisioned them thriving in a world alive with color and expression, free from the succession of rigid expectations. Yet here she was, standing against an established system and imposing wall. Think of all they could achieve, Thomas, she urged, her voice steadying. Children uncover their strengths when they are allowed to delve into the realms of discovery. You've seen it in their art, in how they come alive when they create. Isn't that worth nurturing? A flicker of uncertainty washed over Thomas's face momentarily, but then he squared his jaw defiantly. You misinterpret what children need. The world isn't gentle. They need to learn the fundamentals first. Fundamentals are important, but what about enjoying the process? Sarah's voice softened, she aimed for an appeal rather than a provocation. If they love learning, they'll seek it out, and it will lead to true mastery. Isn't that a better foundation? Mrs. Ellis's brow furrowed thoughtfully, and Sarah seized the opportunity to bridge the chasm. Perhaps we could run a fun project together, a trial, just to see how they respond. No strings attached. Test out the idea of learning through creativity and structure in tandem. For a sweet moment, hope fluttered wildly in Sarah's chest as she waited for a response. Mrs. Ellis appeared more receptive, her interest piqued by the possibility. Sarah's confidence surged, she was carving out a narrative that might redefine everything, but Thomas shook his head slowly. And how would you propose this? I don't want my children's time wasted on frivolities. I'd take the lead, Sarah outlined, laser-focused. I can create a structured yet playful plan that incorporates what they learn in school with exploration at home. Together, we can foster their potential fully. With her heart racing, she felt control seep into her narrative. For the first time in a long while, Sarah felt empowered to dictate the course of her own fate and influence the lives around her. Let us call this a pilot project, she urged, locking eyes with Mrs. Ellis, who seemed caught between agreement and doubt. If it doesn't work, you haven't lost anything. But if it does, if it ignites a spark in them, think of the possibilities. The room settled into a heavy silence once more, filled with the echo of Sarah's proposition. Yet a calm had descended over her, the uncertainty of the outcome thrummed beneath her skin, but the thrill of taking the leap overshadowed it. Suddenly, though, a sinking feeling crept into her thoughts. Had she overstepped? Would this newfound alliance evaporate under the weight of Thomas's insistence? More importantly, she thought, what happens the moment they reject my vision entirely? As she steadied herself, bracing for the fallout, Sarah could only wonder if she was pivoting towards an unexpected victory or entangling herself deeper in conflict. With each heartbeat, she awaited the response that could either validate her impulse or unravel it completely. Would they take the leap alongside her? The moment of truth loomed like a storm on the horizon, waiting to unleash its fury. Mrs. Ellis hesitated, her gaze flitting back and forth between her husband and Sarah. The weight of the moment felt monumental, as though the very future of the children rested upon the outcome of this conversation. Sarah's heart raced with anticipation, and she could almost hear the ticking of time amplifying the tension in the room. Would they dare to embrace a new way of thinking, or would they shut her down before she could even begin? "All right, Sarah," Mrs. Ellis finally said, the tremble in her voice betraying her uncertainty. "I'm willing to consider this trial. But I need to know you can deliver. Our kids aren't just any kids, they have a bright future ahead of them, and I won't let anything jeopardize that." "Of course," Sarah replied. Then, stealing a moment to breathe, she added, "I'll put together a detailed plan that outlines exactly how the project will function. Clear goals, benchmarks, all of it. I promise, this won't be wasted time." Thomas's skepticism was still palpable, but with his wife on board, he could only manage a begrudging, "Fine. But don't think for a second I'm accepting this naively. You've got one opportunity to make this work." A surge of adrenaline coursed through Sarah as she realized the magnitude of what she had just achieved. The Elsises were allowing her a chance, but along with it, a tightrope of expectations had been erected before her. The stakes had never felt so high, and now the path forward demanded more than just courage, it required strategic execution. After they parted ways, Sarah found herself with the fluttering excitement of a juggler attempting her first act. Every detail of the project needed to shine brilliantly, drawing upon her creative instincts but anchored firmly to educational outcomes. Immediately, she set to work, developing a framework that seamlessly fused traditional learning with playful exploration. Days turned into sleepless nights as she transformed her ideas into actionable steps. Each element felt like a building block in a grand structure that could hold the weight of her aspirations. She envisioned creating art that included concepts of math, science experiments that resulted in innovative projects, and writing exercises that sparked collaboration. As she crafted lesson plans, a revelation struck her. This wasn't merely about the kids or winning over the Elises, it was also about confronting her own fears, her fear of failure, of inadequacy. She poured her own childhood experiences into the projects, recalling the spark that learning through creativity had ignited within her. When she introduced her plan to the twins, their eyes lit up, a vivid reminder of the joy she fought to preserve. Each time they giggled while solving a puzzle or splashed paint in exuberance, Sarah felt a piece of her vision come alive. It was intoxicating to witness the melding of joy and hard work, but it also came with the pressure of Thomas's earlier words hanging over her. Progress propelled Sarah forward, but doubt still hovered. What if the Elsises' initial willingness faded? What if she miscalculated the balance between structure and free expression? The children's responses would be critical indicators of success or failure. Tracking their growth would not be simple. She had a mix of instincts and emotional investment that could cloud her judgment. As she walked home one evening, she pondered her approach, fully aware of the bumpy road ahead. Then, as she wandered through the neighborhood, a stray thought ignited. What if she found a way to involve the community? The idea hadn't fully formed, but it resonated with the thrilling potential to expand her vision beyond just the twins, invigorating something even more profound within herself. With new determination, she strode home. Yet just as she thought she'd found the key to her next move, an unexpected and chilling realization struck. How could she involve others without inviting their skepticism? The sun dipped low in the horizon, mirroring the shadows of her doubts. Sarah knew she was at a precipice. Around the corner lay either triumph or a deeper entanglement in conflict. The more Sarah pushed for her vision, the more she felt the stakes rise. Would her motivation fortify her resolve, or would it spiral into chaos under scrutiny? The next step she took could redefine her trajectory, but first, she would need to confront the reactions of those who had yet to see her true intent. The weight of potential failure hung heavy in the air, and she couldn't shake the anxious thrill that pulsed within her. Would she forge ahead into the unknown? The following mornings felt like a whirlwind, each sunrise accompanied by a new burst of resolve. Sarah awoke with the notion of community involvement swirling in her mind, yet it also brought a wafting aroma of fear. What would the parents think? Would they see her as an outlier intruding on their bubble of certainty? She took a deep breath and reminded herself that involvement could elevate her project beyond the twins. Perhaps, if the local families engaged, the experiment could inspire a shift in thinking, a transformation in how education was perceived. It was a tantalizing concept, but she found herself hesitating at the thought of sharing her vision with others. Would her ideas resonate, or would they dismiss her as naive, just as Thomas had cautioned? Once again, Sarah sat down, surrounded by notes and sketches. The whiteboard in her living room became a shrine of aspirations, ideas sprawling across it like vines crawling toward sunlight. There, she articulated goals, community workshops, collaborative projects, a grand presentation highlighting the children's achievements. Each word etched into that board echoed her growing ambition and reflected her resolve to overcome personal insecurities. Months of observation had shown her how much the twins craved connection, not only with their learning but with the world around them. If she could harness that desire and direct it outward, there might be a ripple effect that could benefit not only them but each child in that enclosed community. The more she considered it, the more her excitement surged, energy pulsing through her veins like adrenaline. Development began. A simple flyer outlining her ideas and inviting other kids to join came to life. Sarah crafted it meticulously, her heart racing with each word she typed. When she printed it, her hands trembled slightly with anticipation. With every word she wrote, she confronted the specter of skepticism looming over her. Perhaps the content was too ambitious. Maybe the community would think she was overstepping, her peers would think her attempts trivial. Yet, in the face of self-doubt, determination settled in like an anchor. Sarah had fought against the chains of uncertainty long enough. No longer could she let the haunting voice of doubt dictate her next moves. She resolved to forge ahead and silence it with action. The flyers were placed delicately in mailboxes and hung on community boards around town, her heart racing each time she caught a glimpse of them. Now all she had to do was wait. Days passed, and anxiety tinged each moment as she replayed the what-ifs in her mind. Then came the first spark of interest. An unexpected reply from a parent excitedly asking about the planned workshops lit a fire within her. With that single response, Sarah found not just motivation but certainty in her vision. The connection revealed something crucial: she wasn't alone. However, just as she started reeling in that confidence, another worry bloomed. What if the engagement transformed her project into something unmanageable? Little by little, she was inviting more complexity into her life, stirring a cauldron of possibilities that could very well overflow. Even as enthusiasm bubbled, she felt a looming dread about the responses to her fledgling initiative. What if her strategic execution faltered? Would she shatter not only her vision but also deal a blow to the education of those who placed their trust in her? Drawing on her previous experiences, Sarah reminded herself of the progress she had already made. She could balance structure and free expression. She could engage families and inspire the community. The weight of each decision felt daunting, yet she realized that clarity had emerged through her introspection. What she truly sought was not mere validation from others, it was the realization of her own capabilities. That realization echoed within her a refrain of possibility. She had the talent, the passion, and now a budding network of support. Yet as the excitement coursed through her, an unsettling question flickered in the back of her mind: how would she respond if the critics reared their heads? If all her enthusiasm flagged under scrutiny? Perhaps the most imposing barrier remained not with others but within herself. As she walked home one evening, illuminated by the fading light, Sarah knew she stood at the edge of a transformative journey. The tension was palpable, tighter than ever before. But she had a choice to challenge her fears or step back. In the air hung an unshakable intensity, a promise of both calamity and growth. Sarah knew she had to brace herself. The confrontation with skepticism was looming just beyond the horizon. Would she step into uncharted territory ready to assert her belief in her vision? Or would she retreat, allowing the shadows of doubt to loom larger than the light of possibility? The decision was hers, but the stakes had never felt higher. With each day that passed, anticipation mingled with a curling anxiety. Sarah spent hours meticulously preparing her proposals for the upcoming workshops. She envisioned engaging activities, hands-on experiments, art projects, discussions that would spark curiosity. Yet with every attractive idea, she felt the weight of responsibility press down, especially as the clock ticked closer to the day of the first meeting. On the morning of the planned gathering, anxiety lodged itself deep in her stomach. Would anyone show up? As she paced her living room, clutching her notes, the familiar specter of self-doubt whispered reminders of all the times she faltered. But she steeled herself, grounding her thoughts in gratitude for the interest expressed by the one parent. That flicker of encouragement was a lifeline she couldn't dismiss. When she arrived at the community center, her heart raced. The room was smaller than she'd imagined, the air thick with the scent of unswept floors and fresh paint. Children were playing on one side while parents congregated hesitantly on the other, curious yet skeptical. Sarah took a deep breath, positioning herself close to the entrance. As she scanned the crowd, she noticed familiar faces, parents who had always been polite but distant. Stepping up, she cleared her throat, and the room quieted. Her voice, initially shaky, found a new strength as she began to speak. She painted an enthusiastic picture of the potential workshops, how they could ignite a sense of wonder in the children, fostering a love for learning that transcended traditional education. With every word, she began to connect, not intellectually but emotionally. She spoke not just about the twins but about the joy of curiosity and discovery. Though she felt sparks of doubt flickering at the edge of her consciousness, they were overshadowed by her passion. She could see a few smiles from the crowd, and that lit a fire within her. As the first question broke the ice, a wave of relief washed over her. "How will this help our children learn better?" asked a young mother, her brow furrowed with concern. With newfound confidence, Sarah plunged into a detailed response. She spoke of tailored learning experiences that catered to each child's strengths, drawing from her observations. The twins' hunger for connection and knowledge was her anchor, proof that engagement could transform academics from mere routines into adventures. As she answered questions and invited feedback, she noticed nods of agreement and bursts of laughter, quick moments of connection staving off the heavy weight of skepticism that had loomed over her. Yet, amid the growing acceptance, one voice stood out: Thomas. He approached with that familiar confident smile, but this time it felt like a challenge. "This all sounds great, Sarah, but kids have their limits. You're asking for a lot from both the kids and the parents. What do you have to say to those concerns?" His words pricked at the thin skin of her confidence. The doubts she had pushed aside now rushed back, enveloping her. She realized she needed more than just enthusiasm. She required a clear plan, a strategy that could quell concerns. As she deliberated her response, the room grew tense, a palpable moment where her vision teetered on the brink of acceptance or dismissal. But instead of retreating into uncertainty, Sarah saw a chance for growth. "You're right," she acknowledged, locking eyes with him. "I need to ensure we keep it manageable. Let us set expectations together. These workshops can evolve based on what works best for the kids." As she spoke, a ripple of murmurs spread through the group, a mix of intrigue and apprehension. Sarah felt her pulse quicken as she realized that while she navigated skepticism, she could also foster a dialogue based on collaboration. This was her moment of truth. Confronting critics didn't mean that her vision was flawed, it meant it needed refining. The interaction ignited a sense of purpose in her heart. Each critical question strengthened her resolve, each skeptical glance exploring opportunity rather than failure. When the meeting concluded, the mix of acceptance and questions in the air crackled with possibility. Parents signed up for the workshops, some a bit hesitant but willing to engage. As she walked out of the community center, a grin broke across her face. The first step in transforming her vision into action felt triumphant. Yet she couldn't ignore the remaining anxieties nagging at the corners of her mind. How would she manage differing expectations? Would the parents support her approach once they saw it in practice? The tension of these uncertainties weighed heavily, but it was a tangible tension, one grounded in a developing reality, not the nebulous grasp of doubt. The thrill of potential mixed with fear and excitement coursed through her veins. As Sarah looked back at the fading lights of the community center, she sensed that this was just the beginning. The true challenge lay ahead, requiring her to confront not only her critics but also any skepticism buried within herself. Would she be able to rise to the occasion if the doubt resurfaced? In that moment, she understood transformation required more than ambition, it demanded resilience. And with a flame of purpose ignited deep inside her, she already felt the weight of the next horizon calling her toward it. The days following the meeting were a whirlwind of activity for Sarah. Every moment felt charged with purpose, yet the intensity of her anxiety began to evolve into something more complex. She found herself waking in the early hours, the quiet of dawn beckoning her to grab her notebook and sketch out ideas for the upcoming workshops. Uncertainty gripped her, threading through the excitement of this new venture. As she penned down fresh concepts, nature walks, storytelling sessions infused with craft, peer-led discussions, she couldn't help but question whether her vision would resonate. Each idea blossomed with potential, yet the nagging doubt that had been her persistent companion began to morph into a different entity, fear of failure. Each stroke of her pen felt like a duel, a battle between creativity and caution. To counterbalance her self-doubt, Sarah reached out for support, a tactic she had previously shunned. She invited a small group of parents to discuss ideas and gather feedback. As their encouraging voices filled her living room, she briefly felt the burdensome weight lift. One mom, Claire, whose son was introverted and reserved, shared her desire for more interactive, group-based activities. A sense of camaraderie blossomed among them, casting long shadows over her earlier apprehensions. Then, amidst the warmth of shared aspirations, the specter of criticism returned. Thomas's voice echoed in her mind, a subtle reminder of her challenges. Keep it manageable. His words persisted like a reminder tattooed on her subconscious. To embrace the ambiguity of the unknown was one thing, but to create a framework that balanced exploration and realistic expectations proved far more demanding than she ever anticipated. Sarah realized she needed a tangible structure that would offer clarity while nurturing creativity. This balance was vital to ensure the workshops fostered joy rather than become rigid obligations. Approaching her desk, she drafted an outline, objectives for each session, activities tailored to different age groups, and a feedback loop that would seek input not only from the parents but also from the children. However, as she typed away, another internal debate simmered. Should she invite Thomas to these planning sessions? His initial skepticism weighed heavily in her mind, but she also recognized his insight as a strength. Her hesitation felt taped together by fear, a nagging thought that if she included him, she would simply face judgment or more questions. After a full minute of deliberation, she cast this skepticism aside. If she couldn't confront her critics head-on, how could she truly cultivate a collaborative environment? With her heart racing, she sent him an email. Inviting him to explore the plans might spark a constructive dialogue, she reasoned. As the minutes danced away, dread dripped into her consciousness while hope flickered restlessly. A subtle tug-of-war hovered as the minutes dragged by. Just as self-doubt threatened to overtake her, a reply arrived, infused with unexpected warmth. I'd love to be part of the planning, Sarah. Let's make sure we keep things realistic for the kids while still inspiring them. Relief washed over her like a refreshing tide. As they met over coffee, an encouraging dynamic began to crystallize. They discussed each workshop's potential, weaving in child psychology principles with practical applications, as Sarah outlined her vision. Thomas brought a different perspective, reminding her to inject flexibility while maintaining a framework. Constructive engagement surged between them, each idea blossoming into something richer, deeper, yet, deep inside her, the shadows of unresolved insecurities lay in wait. Could she not only rally enthusiasm among parents but also support the evolving identities of each child? Would she be capable of fostering true engagement? The foundation they were building felt solid, but she sensed a storm of unpredictability approaching. As she expanded her circle, inviting more parents into her fold of collaboration, Sarah became aware that the expectations were growing exponentially. The workshop's success now depended not only on her vision but also on nurturing these relationships. As she prepared for the first of these expanded planning sessions, anticipation and dread clouded her mind equally. How would these parents respond to her ideas? Would she face resistance anew, or would the collaborative spirits remain buoyed in this momentum? Stepping out of her comfort zone, she felt a rush of adrenaline bittersweet with fear. Empowerment unfolded alongside uncertainty, the very act of reaching out a display of courage. As she set her plans into motion, she couldn't shake the thought, the real challenge was just beginning. Could she navigate this new landscape of expectations while staying true to her original intent? Her thoughts drifted as she pondered the war ahead, a battle not just of ideas but of self-acceptance. As she entered the bustling cafe that would host the planning session, she paused and took a deep breath. Here was a step not just toward engaging the parents, but toward accepting herself as a pivotal force in this community's journey. But just as decisiveness enveloped her, a small voice inside whispered, "Are you truly ready for what's next?" The moment hung in the air, electric with possibility but laden with the knowledge that vulnerability often precedes discovery. With resolve solidifying in her heart, she stepped forward. The time had come to actualize not just her ideas but, perhaps, her own potential. The small cafe buzzed with the chatter of parents catching up, but to Sarah, the noise faded into a hum of anticipation. She arrived well ahead of the meeting time, her nerves pulsing in sync with the steady rhythm of the espresso machine. Each click and hiss seemed to mock her internal chaos, as she prepared to unveil the framework for the workshops that had consumed her thoughts. As parents trickled in, she greeted them with a shaky smile. The immediate challenge was balancing her eagerness to share and her apprehension about their reactions. Claire was among the first, her warm presence grounding Sarah momentarily as they exchanged pleasantries and took a seat by the window. She felt comfort in Claire's supportive energy but couldn't shake the sense of looming scrutiny from the others. Once the group settled, Sarah stood to present her plans. The outline she had crafted felt tangible, yet the butterflies in her stomach threatened to take flight with each passing moment. Flipping through her notebook, she spoke about the importance of creativity paired with structure, her voice wavering at times. However, as she laid out her vision for nature walks and storytelling sessions, Sarah found herself propelled by a fervor she hadn't expected. Sharing her motivations, how she believed these experiences could foster connection among kids and parents, sucked her fears into a growing collective hope. The first few questions were gentle, each one urging her forward rather than pushing her back. Ideas flowed like a current, picking up momentum as she encouraged input. Sarah found herself immersed in a discussion about different techniques for storytelling that engaged the children while offering opportunities for reflection. With each new suggestion, she felt herself embrace the collaborative spirit, as if everyone was weaving their fabric into her evolving tapestry. Yet, amid the burgeoning enthusiasm, Thomas's critical perspective loomed in her mind. It was a toxic undertow that threatened to drag her confidence down. Would they attempt to steer her ideas into familiar waters, stifling creativity? Isn't this all too ambitious? Thomas finally interjected, a hint of skepticism creeping back into the room. The air thickened with tension, and Sarah felt heat rise in her cheeks. Actually, I believe it's a viable plan if we break the workshops down into manageable segments, she responded, mirroring his rhetoric but also asserting her stance. Her heart raced at the boldness of her words. Instead of retreating into herself, she chose to defend her vision. The room held its breath momentarily before Claire chimed in. We've been looking for something that excites our kids. A structured approach will only help us explore deeper. Sarah locked eyes with Thomas, an unspoken challenge forming between them. This was the moment to confront her fears and advocate for her ideas, not only to him but to herself. The outcome of this workshop hinged on the collective acceptance of experimentation and exploration rather than solely tangible results. As the discussion flowed again, she made a mental note to encourage further dialogue around risk and reward. Amidst the shifting dynamics, something began to crystallize within her. She was not simply a facilitator but the architect of a new community narrative that valued growth. With the meeting wrapping up and concrete plans forming, Sarah felt a surprising clarity amid the chaos of her thoughts. She could navigate these relational intricacies, but only if she remained flexible and open. Nonetheless, the shadow of fear still lurked at the periphery, reminding her that each implementation would carry its own set of challenges. As parents departed, their expressions bright and energized, Sarah remained seated, reflecting. Had she truly broken through her own fears, or was there more hidden beneath the surface? Would this enthusiasm translate to tangible excitement among the children, or would it fall short? The questions swirled like the espresso she had just ordered, rich with potential yet still clouded. Determined to anchor her resolve amidst uncertainty, she resolved to keep noting feedback, recalibrating her approach as necessary. The real test was on its way, a culmination that both thrilled and terrified her. What if, in her pursuit of success, she overlooked pivotal qualities within her approach? As she gathered her things, the tether of doubt tugged at her again, a reminder that navigating this new landscape would demand continual growth and introspection. Sarah paused outside the cafe, her breath caught in a moment of clarity. The stakes were higher than before. Would she truly step into her role, or would hesitation claw back at her determination? As she embarked down the street, the answer felt obscured by the fog of anticipation. The next workshop session loomed larger, whispering questions she hadn't yet considered. It was time to face them. Would she be driver of change or a mere passenger in a journey she initiated? The day of the first workshop had arrived, the atmosphere charged with both anticipation and trepidation as Sarah adjusted the final details of her carefully crafted plans. The community center buzzed with life, the air thick with laughter and chatter of excited children and skeptical parents. Over the past weeks, she had poured herself into not only planning but embracing the discomfort of vulnerability, honing her ability to respond to both criticism and support with equal vigor. As parents and kids filtered in, a wave of enthusiasm buzzed beneath the surface. She caught glimpses of familiar faces, toy-laden kids, and the hopeful grins of parents who had dared to step outside of the constraints of traditional learning. She positioned herself at the helm, drawing strength from her initial vision to foster creativity and connection. Welcome, everyone. Sarah's voice emerged strong, echoing through the space. Today, we're here to explore, create, and learn in ways that ignite curiosity and joy. As she spoke, the nervous energy coiled inside her transformed into something more potent, a conduit for the change she thirsted to witness. The workshop began with an icebreaker activity, an interactive storytelling game where children collaborated to build a fantastical narrative. Sarah's heart surged as she watched the initial awkwardness dissipate, laughter replacing hesitation. The children's imagination soared. Each addition to the story brought unique contributions, from a flying dog to talking rainbows, sprouting creativity and camaraderie. Within moments, parents exchanged glances of surprise and delight. Each laugh echoed as if it dismantled walls erected by conformity and doubt. Children ran up to present their ideas, weaving elaborate tales with enthusiastic gestures, breathing life into a space where creativity blossomed unconfined. As the workshop progressed through crafts and exploratory projects merging art with learning, Sarah found herself moving fluidly with the rhythm of their engagement. Little hands painted vibrant suns and crafted whimsical shapes, while Sarah flowed through the room, answering questions, offering encouragement, and celebrating each small victory. She had become the orchestrator of a vivid symphony of creativity, yet, amidst the joyous atmosphere, the specter of skepticism lingered in the back of her mind. As she caught Thomas observing from the periphery, she felt a ripple of anxiety tingle along her spine. Was he truly witnessing the potential she sought to unfold, or was he standing ready to judge? As the session closed, parents congregated in a circle, reviewing the experience. Thomas, however, remained silent, an inscrutable expression shadowing his face. Sarah summoned her courage, ready to address the moment, the culmination of her growth thus far. Thank you all for joining today. Your kids truly thrived. Let us discuss how we can cultivate this energy moving forward. Thomas finally spoke, his voice deliberate. I'll admit, I was apprehensive about this approach, but seeing my daughter engaged like this, it's transformative. That said, I still question its viability for long-term educational value. The room held its breath, each parent waiting to hear Sarah's response. She felt the weight of her journey slip away, replaced by a fierce confidence. What if we redefine success together? Learning isn't just about rote retention, it's about sparking innovation and adaptability through creativity. This has shown potential and opportunity to cultivate resilience in our children. Together, let us measure progress through enthusiasm and connection, not just traditional benchmarks. In that moment, something shifted, the atmosphere palpably transformed. Parents nodded in agreement, one after another voicing their appreciation for the day's activities. These workshops began to change how I think, Claire added, her eyes lighting up with excitement. If they can build confidence through creativity, isn't that success? The group rallied around her vision. Their voices built a chorus of commitment, and Sarah felt the warmth of collective acceptance wash over her. They were willing to embrace this transformative journey, eager to support her in cultivating a new narrative for education, one that celebrated creativity and exploration. As the session wrapped up, Thomas approached Sarah with a newfound respect. I didn't believe in this at first, but considering the benefits I've seen today, I want to work alongside you in this journey. His words offered a level of validation that felt global, grounding. Thank you, Thomas, she replied, a smile breaking across her face. Together, we can bridge structure with creativity, cultivating an environment that nurtures our children into confident, capable individuals. In that exchange, Sarah realized she had not only conquered her own doubts but had navigated the very barriers that stifled creativity within the affluent circles and beyond. She was beginning to stand firmly, not just as a cleaning lady, but as a respected advocate for a critical shift in how children learned. As parents left, Sarah held tightly to the knowledge that she had helped shape a new path, not only for the twins but for the entire community. Her achievements lay in forging connections, fostering joy, and creating a space where dreams could flourish, an accomplishment well-earned and deserved. Sarah took a deep breath as she gazed around the center, the laughter of children now echoing in her heart. She felt an indomitable strength resonate within her. Each brushstroke of her aspirations and the vibrant experiences invigorated her spirit. She had risen above, she was redefining success through the lens of creativity, with solid confidence and recognized competence. Now was the moment to reflect on her journey, how she had transformed not just a workshop but an entire community perspective on education. Her capability as an artist and advocate had solidified, and she stood proudly, not merely as a cleaner, but a champion of possibility. This was her triumph. The journey had only just begun. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.